All right. Hey, guys, we are live for the 88th episode of the Redroom on the Phoenix RIA, also on Luke and I's personal Facebook pages and on Viking Brothers YouTube channel and Just for Flips YouTube channel. We got Ryan here today. We're going to dig into roofing. Obviously, we talked about fix and flipping with Tracy last week. So obviously one of the biggest ticket items is roofing, but just a little recap of the week. I'm going to just do a little screen share real quick for fun, just so you guys can see this. So print, share screen.
I think it's coming.
Is it?
I can hear it. I can hear you hitting it.
Chris.
Let me know when it comes up.
There we go.
Yeah.
No, is that it? Or is this
Yeah.
it? Do you see the
what did it say? 10-year treasury yield. I don't see any.
Yeah, 4.78.
No graphs or anything yet, just the loading page.
This is always so much fun when I do this. So I'm back to share screen.
What's a live streaming show without, major technical glitches? No worries.
Absolutely.
Keeps it interesting,
It's very true.
That's what we got Luke over here, time fillers. All right.
No, Joe. Well, I won't be much of a time player today. My voice is gone from that first quarter of the game yesterday.
And the sobbing afterwards, I would assume as well.
Exactly.
The quiet man sobbing.
Yeah, exactly.
So here you go. This is the 10-year bond. This is once again, I say this if you've been watching the show for any length of time, the Fed rate doesn't really have anything to do with mortgage rates. It's this little 10-year bond right here that has to do with mortgage rates, and this is the 1-year chart, and you can see we're clicking right over here, and you can see that line going across as the highest interest rates in the last 12 months. So to just give you an idea that mortgage rates are higher. So when this hits a high point, you get two things happening. You get the high point of the 10-year bond, and then you also get the margin, which tends to increase also because when mortgages are at a high point, banks know that as soon as it dips in one of these troughs, they get refinanced. So not only does your bond or your basis kind of stay at a high point, your margin gets higher also because banks are worried about the refi. They really kind of price these until you hit year 3. So if they get refinanced in a year, they didn't make any money. So probably got some high interest rates. I'm sure rates are probably in the 7s. I haven't quoted a mortgage rate. If anybody has, they're happy to jump in and let us know what they've seen. But I'm sure they're in the 7s now. So
I just got a refinance on a DSCR, which DSCR is typically 1 point higher, give or take right around there. And we just locked it in at 7.4, which for DSCR, I thought that was pretty.
It's actually really comparable.
I got locked in. I think I got locked in about a month back though. So maybe 6 weeks back. So I think that's kind of why it helped out. But 7.4 for DSCR. The biggest thing with obviously a lot of those DSCR loans is that they'll hit you with a 5-year prepayment penalty. So that's the one thing that I had to make sure I hit. And then usually how those work though is that they'll tier for each year that you pay off ahead of time. It'll be like whatever, maybe 4 points, 3 points, 2 points, 1 point, if you do in those years.
So they're booking in that 3-year plan that they start making money and lock you into that. And if they don't, they just charge you points to make up for the money that they're not making. So,
right.
So that's the interest rates. And then obviously inventory dipped in late December. Everybody started throwing stuff on the market. I was telling before I got on, I had two houses go under contract this week of the stuff that was sitting around for the fall. So that was good. And I had 3 showings on another one. So that was good. Definitely think the market's moving, but definitely the January inventory is also coming on as well. So I think it's balanced. It's right there in the mid 20,000s. We started, last August was 15,000. So just give you an idea, we're up still 25% of kind of like the end of the summer market before the good old fall and election time. But enough about fun market stuff. So,
I've got a quick question on that.
Huh?
A lot of people talk about like the inventory here, and they compare it to say pre-COVID and stuff, but I don't hear anybody talk about like the influx of the population here compared to the inventory. Do you pay attention to those numbers? Because I know like 08, 09, people say, oh, the peak of the market was this many listings, whatever. Pre-COVID, it was this many listings. But how many net positive population do we have here now versus those listings? Because let's say we have, go ahead.
We had a steady increase of say 80 to 100,000, call it. I mean, that's just kind of our number, 80 to 100,000 people moving here. Then we had some giant number in the COVID years of I want to say 300,000 or so we just, it's like 80 to 100 and it was kind of steady for that, 10, 11, 12, 13. Yeah. And then, it was just this massive, and it could maybe over 300. It might have been 400,000 people in like an 18-month time frame. But with that, you saw, I think 2024 was pretty flat. So you actually saw some people that had come in for COVID,
move back,
relocate back out of here because they're like, oh, this summer is probably way too hot. So,
well, it's not as affordable as it used to be either. That used to be a huge driving factor. And now that we've caught up with a lot of the other parts of the country, Arizona used to be known for that. And that was a major attractant, let alone less, if no natural disasters. And I'd love to ask Ryan about this too, as we move into the conversation, is the temperatures here and how that's going to affect the lifespan on roofing and what we need to expect as investors for that cost.
Yeah, roofs.
So let's just jump into that. Obviously, like I said at the beginning, the roofing is a big ticket item, and there is no give us everything you need to know in the next 25 minutes. We need to know about roofing and what fix and flippers need to look for.
Yeah. So roofing, I compare roofing a lot like tires. It's something you need, but nobody wants to buy. Right? There's nothing cool. You might lift your truck or whatever and check out my new 35s or whatever. That's like the only time tires were ever cool. But then when you have to go rebuy those same tires, you're like, damn, I got to spend $2, $3, $4 on tires. Nobody wants to buy those. So roofing is exactly like the tire industry. Roofs don't last as long as any manufacturer tells you they're going to, especially when you have the elements like the sun. Out here, it just gets so hot. And even though we have several of the manufacturers out here that actually make the products here, there's just nothing that can withstand the heat, the sun, like we have here. So we're also in California, so we're licensed in California. So we've really ramped up out there, especially the last 6-8 months, whatever. And we see different elements out there with the salty air. So there's everywhere has its elements. You go to the Midwest, the South, they have storms. I think in Texas, like the average lifespan of a roof is like 5 to 7 years out there, just because of the storms. And so everywhere has its things. Out here, we're not considered what they call a storm market, even though we do get some crazy monsoons that will come, rip some wind through here, maybe a hailstorm every couple of years. We're not really considered a storm market versus like the Midwest and the South. But so we always try to align this your dream vehicle. Do you want the best of the best? Like you're putting your wife, your kids, your family, you probably want the best tires on that vehicle for safety reasons, right? And longevity. The same thing is kind of true in roofing. Do you want the best roof? Is this your forever home? Or do you want you're not going to live in this forever. You're not trying to invest a lot of money. Maybe you don't have a lot of money. Maybe that's a fix and flip, which most flippers obviously don't want to touch a roof, but it's also one of the number one things that kill real estate deals. So I have a real estate background, fix flips, wholesales, long-term rentals. I've kind of been immersed in that whole arena. So with that background, I was able to kind of come into roofing and speak that same language. Now I can say, okay, Mr. Homeowner, you're buying this as your forever home. Put the best roof on here that's going to last you 30, 40, maybe. The products that are available now are great. Some say 50-year warranty. they haven't been around long enough to see if they actually last 50 years. But we do know that there's products that were put on houses in the 90s that are still lasting today, 30 years later. So there's possibilities that the products that we have available today could prolong, a 40, 50-year lifespan. But again, going back to the flip, like for a flip, for example, you want to get in and get out of there probably as cheap as possible. So we've kind of curated some products down to where they're, investor friendly. So we have products that are like what we call the investor. We don't put garbage on any roof. Like as a company, I don't want to have to stand behind like garbage products. So there are some garbage products on there that like that you put on a roof that you just think about the cheapest tires you could put on your car. They're not safe. They're probably not going to last more than 10,000 miles. It's the same thing in the roofing industry. So we've kind of built packages, products, services, like literally surrounding, okay, this is a flip. Oh, you're going to hold this, maybe this is a 5-10 year rental. Like, what is it with your business plan? How can we fit into your business plan? And so we've been, I feel like, really good about doing that. And a lot of like our investor friends, like my fix and flip friends, have still even yet to use us because they see us as we're a real company. Like we have a real office overhead. Like we're competing with like some of the top companies in the Valley, in the state. And so they kind of see that. And I'm like, wait, we're not chucking the truck cheap pricing, that they might seek after, just because, again, when you're doing a flip or something like that, you want to stay as close to your budget as possible. And so we try to compete in that arena, but then we also are on the opposite side of the spectrum where we're competing with like some of the best home builders in the Valley. Like we have some pretty sweet projects going on right now that are, multi-million, $7, $8, $10 million homes. Like, so we're even on that side of the business as well. So that's pretty cool. But one thing we like to do is come in, like Luke, for example. Chris, before we get on the show, you started talking about a roof in North Scottsdale from a house that you kind of got into. Sounds like you're flipping it. What was that, a long-term rental or what? It sounds like you've had it for a while.
I flipped it in 1031 exchange. So
got it. Okay.
It was a big remodel. So I just I did it slowly, knowing I had a year. So
got it. Oh, you had it for the 1031 purposes. Got it.
Yeah, I added a pool. I did a major remodel to it. Basically took it to studs. So
got it. So on that one, before the show, he was telling me that he replaced like the AC units, the windows. He kind of did a full everything, but hasn't done the roof yet. And so now he's kind of like, do I do the roof? Do I not do the roof? And it's one of those things where the National Association of Realtors actually says that you get a dollar for dollar return on your roof investment. So if you put a new roof on, you're not going to get like a 1.5 or a 2-point return back on that, but you get dollar for dollar. So as long as like when you're flipping a house, or even if it's your personal home, and let's say you put a roof on 2 years ago, 5 years ago, they're going to look at that as a 2 to 5 year old roof, and then obviously figure out the depreciation value of that. But you'll get a dollar for dollar return on your roof.
Heck yeah.
So
right, what would you say is a typical lifespan of, let's say, like a shingle, composite shingle roof versus a like a tile roof?
So composite shingle, we're doing a lot right now, or we see them a lot, I should say, that we're tearing off that are like 35, 40 years old. So it's possible to get 30, 40 years out of a roof. Most tile roofs, especially if they're like on one of these tract homes, you're going to see probably a 20-year lifespan. Tract home development, they use a lot of the cheaper underlayment materials and products.
Yeah.
But what we tell people, and something that we've really been pressing the last 2 years, is roof maintenance. So just like your car, your roof needs maintenance. And if you stay on top of your roof maintenance, meaning like once every year, there's some roofs you could probably get by with like every other year, depending on your kind of geographic location. Like, do you have a lot of trees and debris that's falling on your roof, or is it just like kind of clear skies all the time over your roof, right? But as long as you get roof maintenance, you can prolong the life of your roof. I don't know how long, because I haven't been in the game 30, 40 years like some of these other guys, but we're doing roofs that are 30, 40 years old, and it's like, dang, I think it held up pretty well for 40 years, you know?
Well, I wonder if some of the materials used to be manufactured a little bit better back then. I mean, certainly that spilled over into appliances and a lot of the
Totally.
sort of interior materials and surfaces that we use in flips. Let me ask you this, Ryan, in terms from an investor standpoint, if you're looking at a roof and say it's at that cusp where you couldn't, maybe you do some repairs. I want to say it's a really big contention because we as investors, obviously, we need to make sure that we're getting the value out of it, stay within our budget, like you mentioned. But it's also a really big point of contention on the resale side where the buyer's agents are fighting for their lives. If the AC is more than 6-7 years old, they're like, you need a brand new AC up here.
Always. Yep.
Even if it has a clean bill of health, you have not advertised it's a new one. And they're going to freak out about the ridge caps that were broken and think of it like now you need to pay for an entirely new roof. So what's a tip that you can give us as investors to balance all of that? Of course, I don't want to pay for a whole new roof, but when can I make a decision to say this is where I can balance my budget and also stay out of buyer's agent jail with them seeing something wrong and then way overblowing it and freaking out their buyer?
Yeah, it's a perfect question. So we've actually come up with what we call, it's a roof certification program. And so let's say you have a house, let's say it's on the cut, it's 20 years old, right? Tile roof or really any kind of roof. 20 years old is kind of like either they didn't take care of the roof and it's bad or getting bad, or they've taken good care of it and you could probably get another 3, 5, 7 years out of it, whatever it might be. So what we'll do, get us over there, we'll do a free inspection. And then we'll say, okay, it needs like this touch-up item, this, and this. We'll do these items. And so basically a maintenance, we call it maintenance package. And then we'll actually provide a roof certification for that roof. You can hand that over to your buyer's agent. And then what that does, it actually puts a 2-year warranty on the entire roof. So as long as we perform our stuff and kind of get the roof like brought up to par, if you will, we'll put a 2-year warranty on the entire roof. And so when your buyer comes in and buys the house, they kind of have that peace of mind that it's like, okay, I have a roofer in place. And then I also have the peace of mind of like, if something does happen, it's under warranty, right? And something like that usually runs for like, depending on the size of the house, anywhere from like $1,000 to $2,000. And that includes like doing all the maintenance work, materials, labor, and then providing that warranty on there. So it's a heck of a lot cheaper than putting, most people, when they think about a roof here, their brain automatically goes to $15,000-$20,000 roof. Right?
Yeah.
And so that can definitely kill just about it can kill a lot of deals. Right. Yeah. And so, especially if you didn't account for it in the beginning, and that's another thing, and as far as in the beginning, get us out there. If you're considering buying a flip, call us. We'll go out, we'll do a free inspection. We'll tell you before you buy it, hey, this thing has 3-5 years left on it. Hey, it needs an all new replacement, or maybe you're good, right? And that will help build your numbers. Because again, I flipped a few hundred homes. Like I know exactly what to look for. I know what kills deals. And so we always want to help our investor friends as you're entering a deal, like make sure you have an educated in numbers, because everybody comes up like their per square foot price on their remodel. They do a walkthrough, they can see everything in the interior. They're going to come up with their per square foot price for their kitchens, their baths, maybe their exterior. But then what about the roof? And so
yeah, I like
this out there.
I like that because I like the idea of that, because we had a property that we were selling last year where the roof looked like it was in great shape. Like we had, we were selling the property, and kind of what you're saying, Tracy. So we had the buyer's agent, decided to get a roof inspection. They got the roof inspection, and of course the roofer said that the whole roof needs to be replaced.
Of course.
Right. Exactly. So
Always.
they said they're like, oh yeah, they gave us they gave the agent and their client, they gave them a bid of, whatever it was, $24,000 for a new roof. And so obviously as the buyer's agents, have their client in mind. And so they give it to us and they're like, here, we want a $24,000 price reduction just for the roof alone, or a $24,000 credit. You know what I mean? And so we're like, when we're sitting here, we're like, look at this roof. This roof, like we can tell, does not need to be. It did not need to be replaced.
It's it's mind-boggling.
Maybe there's some small things that you could do to whatever to make it look a little bit better, whatever it is. But so anyway, so we're like, okay, well, we're gonna get two bids as well from roofers just to get estimates and see what they say. And the other two roofing companies of course, on our side. But I mean, these are just, we literally called one that we'd never used before. We called another roofing company that we use regularly. And they both came back and said they're insane. They're literally trying to get a free roof out of it. And so we gave them that information showing two saying like, no, so what ended up happening was they had to call another roofing company. So they called a fourth roofing company to get another perspective, and the other roofing company said the roof is good as well. So,
well, I feel like you can find any vendor, especially if, I mean, you don't know if they had used them before a lot, right? All you know is that you got produced this estimate that said you need to replace it, and they'll manufacture whatever they need to.
Yeah.
Knowing that they might be sending them business, or that's sort of their deal. I mean, it's mind-boggling. I've had people say that there's mold in properties where I had to produce 2 reports that say there was never mold in there.
Right.
And they're asking for a $30,000 discount. It was insane. I mean, it's like full fraud, essentially, because they're roping in these vendors. I hate to say the F word, but I was racking my brain trying to figure out. And it's because they had seen me on Instagram thinking that, oh, she knows more about this property than she's alluding to. I'm like, I always give my spuds up front. I'll tell you what I know about the roof or the water. They had seen a bulge in the seal. I'm like, I don't know what that's from. There's no water leaks in here. You can do temperature, you can take the heat temperature.
Yep.
Thank you. Yes. And there was nothing, but agents will do that. They'll just produce estimates that say you owe me a new roof.
and that's where we came up with like the actual certification. Like we'll certify it and put our name behind it. So like Luke in that situation, like, we weren't a part of that obviously, but like had we been, and I went out there and I'm like, hey, I'm going to put my name on this roof and say like, this roof is good. And if for some reason between now, the day you close and then 2 years from now, if there's a leak or something, like I'm going to eat that, you know what I mean? But the idea for that as a business is like, one, I help get the transaction across the finish line. So I help the buyers and the sellers. Right. And then 2, it puts me in front of the new buyer, so I have a new future potential customer. So when it's time for that person to do your roof, that's what I'm going for, is that future business.
Well, you know what it is? Ultimately it's the exact same thing as what you were saying earlier. It's exactly what Discount Tire does. They say, hey, come drive through. We'll fill your tires, make sure everything looks good.
Yes, that's exactly what it is.
Absolutely free every single time. We'll patch your tire for free every single time. But guess what? I get every freaking tire I've ever bought from Discount Tire,
dude,
because I just know they take care of me in every other sense. And so my car is there right now. I have to go pick it up.
I worked there for 4 years. And so
did you? Okay.
I've literally ripped off a lot of their stuff. I tell my team all the time, like, I worked there for 4 years. I think they have some of the best customer service training, but even they have like that entry offer, right, to get you through the door, the free tire service, air service. They have, if you get a flat, the freely flat fix, whatever, stuff like that. And then, like you said, whenever it's time to get your tires, who do you think about? Discount Tire. And so that's exactly what I want through our roof certification program. Like, that's exactly what I want. I don't make a lot of money on it. Actually, like most of those are like break even. Sometimes they're even at a small loss, nothing crazy. But I'm fishing for that future business, because when that thing does leak or 2 years is up, like, they've known me for the past 2 years as their roofer, right?
Yeah.
And then it helps you too. Like, instead of, like, if you were naive, you would have just either cut your price by $24,000 or wrote a check for $24,000 that you didn't have to write. And I see it all the time, man. I see roofs all the time where people, they get one of the big name companies out there that seems very reputable. I won't name any names, but there's a lot of them out there that they do that. They'll send you, hey, boom, we're reputable. And in your mind, you're like, damn, this reputable company just sent me this high price. It's like, back up a little bit. Like, let's do some analysis.
Well, and the other thing that you'll see happen too, because we've seen this happen, is that they'll go ahead and, whatever, let's just say for this one instance that it was the roof, and that the roof did need to be redone, right? But maybe it wasn't terrible, but it did need to be redone. So then it's like on the bins, okay, you know what? You end up deciding we will do a $24,000 credit. Then you drive by 2 years later, they never redid that.
No, they never do.
They just took the $24K credit. And they're like, the roof's fine. It's okay.
We should start demanding that we get pictures after the fact, just not even for like confirmation, but just for spite, like spite clause.
Exactly.
Yeah, I will show up at your door and make you show me this.
Yeah.
Right.
Make the credit not valid. Yeah.
Right. So just, not everybody buys houses with inspections. Some of us buy from us wholesalers, and we don't give any.
I was gonna say who's gonna say it.
Yeah.
So,
I've been there too, man. I've wholesaled
give
a lot
the
of them.
audience like, hey, if I'm looking at an asphalt shingle roof, like what am I looking for? Obviously, you said the tile roofs are good for about 20 years. So, obviously tile roofs started coming out about 88. So you got 88 till about 2005, where they might have replaced the underlayment or might not have. So, who knows?
Yeah.
And then you got the flat roofs where you can't even see the roof. Like,
Yeah, those are
foam rolled roof. Oh.
So I'll give you a quick tip on both. So the most common out here, obviously, is shingle, and tile is the most common out here. Secondary would be shingle, and then you have your flat roofs. But so I think it was, don't quote me on this, but I believe it was 2002 when on tile roofs they came out with a new code. So I'm just going to pull up a quick picture from. Oh shoot. I don't know how well you guys or the audience can even see this, but so this is a tile roof. Okay, this is inspection. But right here on the edge is called the eaves. Okay.
Yeah.
And underneath, like where you can look, if you just think about when you walk up to a tile roof and you can almost like see up in there. If you can see up in there, it's an old roof. Because now we have what's called bird stop. It's a metal trim that goes up underneath each one of those holes. If a roof has that, it is less than 20 years old. Okay. So it's a quick, like if I'm driving through a neighborhood, like as a roofer now, like my eyes automatically, I'm just always looking at roofs, So if I go through a neighborhood and I can see under their tiles, that's a quick way to determine like how it's at least 20 years old. Right. And so right off the bat, I know, like, so if I'm a flipper or wholesaler or whoever it is, I know if I'm looking at the house and you could do this like Google Earth, you know what I mean? Like if you're sitting at your desk and you're buying a property remotely, or you just want to do a quick glance and it's across town, hop on Google Earth, look at it. And if that metal trim is not there, it's instant, like, okay, that's an old roof. And then obviously you can look on Zillow or MLS if you have access and see the age of the house. But most likely that's one way if you're just driving. Shingle roofs, obviously, you're looking for shingles that have been ripped off by wind, curling up. And then everybody's favorite is like the 3-tab shingles. See if I can pull up a quick picture of those. The 3-tab shingles were discontinued. They're just a poor product, so they've been discontinued across the industry. Those are an item that it might be like, say, like a 10, 12-year-old roof. But if an inspector hops on that roof and they see a 3-tab shingle, like they get off on that. They love seeing that, and they can't wait to tell you how old and poor the roof is. and it might not be in bad shape. They've used 3-tab shingles for like 50 years or whatever it was, and they last, but they're not the best product. And therefore, like, inspectors love to get up on roofs and call stuff like that out. So, but missing tiles, stuff like that as well. So,
Ryan, what's it called when you're looking at a shingle roof and you see like the white, like, the white lines around the shingles where it's kind of like it's kind of glossy?
Yep. So that's another way too to determine if the shingle roof is bad. So that is the fiberglass, the fibers actually showing out. So the way a shingle is made, they're mats. Okay, that's like a bunch of fiberglass, and they'll saturate it with asphalt, and then they put the granules on the top. So the granules are like the little rocks that you see that make the actual color. So the granules are there. Think of it like one is the color, but then it's also kind of like the sunscreen. It helps, reflect the heat and keeps the sun from damaging down onto the actual asphalt matting. But once the granules have flaked away, and then the sun beats through the asphalt, then you start seeing the actual fiberglass. That's when basically the shingles are bad. They're out at the end of their life. So that's another way too, because sometimes you'll drive down the street and you'll look at a roof and it's almost like shiny.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and that's what you're seeing. You're seeing those fiberglass fibers just poking out, and they, reflect the sun. They shine.
Cool.
So
on the same question, Ryan, if we were to pick out lighter roofs, would that help with the longevity, given that it's more reflective rather than something darker that might be a little bit more designer looking?
So there's actually been some studies to kind of debunk this, the heat reflectivity and stuff. There are some newer shingles out they're actually code in California. We have to use them in California. They're called Title 24 shingles, but they're supposed to help like with the sun reflectivity. But I think that those only help cool. They have like a 2 to 3 degree heat reduction on your roof, so it's not a ton. But to answer your question, I don't really. I've been on a ton of roofs, and I don't believe in any of that stuff. Like whether the color, whether you go with like a light color or a dark color, they're all asphalt saturated, and they're all going to absorb just about the same amount of heat.
Interesting.
So,
Heck yeah.
But anything as far as helping like investors, homeowners, commercial property owners, like that's what we're here for. So, any of your listeners that need help with their roofs, like I said, call us. Like we'll go inspect your roofs. I get it. You're trying to wheel and deal maybe on a wholesale, but it can help with your negotiations too.
Oh yeah.
So
I like it.
I put your email in the chat. What's the best way to contact you other than the email I threw in the chat?
Email's good. Instagram's good. It's Ryan Larue. I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm sure they can see my name. Instagram's good too. I used to like to give out my phone number, but then I started getting spammed. So I don't know how much spam.
It's your competition.
Ryan, I'll just stop you at our kids' school.
Yeah.
My daughter Sailor goes to school with Ryan's son. So Lincoln.
Yeah.
They were in the same class last year.
Yeah. He still talks about it all the time. So
Heck
my kid's like a class clown, your kid's like a class smart kid.
Oh, that's funny.
He must get it from Sage,
Yeah, exactly. Oh, that's funny.
Well, we appreciate you jumping on. Thanks for the insight to help these flippers in 2025. Reach out to Ryan if you guys need a roof. I'm going to use him to do the laminate under a house I have in Scottsdale here coming up. Just to take I've done all the rest of the work. I might as well I don't want the buyer's agents to go, well, how old's the roof? So.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing too with that house. They're probably going to ask for it anyways. You've done everything else. They're probably going to ask for it.
Yeah.
So, yeah. We'll get you taken care of. Anything you guys need, even your audience. Yeah. We'd love to be a part of it. So definitely help us be a part of your business plan. That's what we always tell people. So
yeah, and we won't be here next week. We'll be at the live event, Orange Street Country Club, Phoenix RIA, from 4:30 to 7. Come out. We're gonna have a market update, and I think we actually got. I forgot who we have as guest speakers. We got. Actually, Dina set them up, and I don't actually know.
Good people, you guys will love it.
Yeah,
These are always great events.
Heck yeah. Sweet, man. We appreciate you.
Great information, Ryan.
You guys having me. Thank you.
Absolutely.
7 more months, Luke, and then the Vikings play again.
You know what? I'm over it. I'm on to just the T-Wolves now, right?
All right. See you guys.
Later, guys.
All right, thanks, guys.